story of St. Peter's Evangelical Lutheran Church is the story of Lutherans in St. Clair. The mid-19th century saw a surge of German immigrants to Michigan. Two young Lutherans, Joseph Heisler and Steib, began a Bible study that grew in popularity. In time, they attracted Reverend Sigmund Fritzl of Detroit to hold services in Newport, now called Marine City. The Lutherans of Palmer, what we now call St. Clair, were invited and implored Reverend Fritzl to come to Palmer to hold services. The first pastor called to serve the Lutherans of St. Clair and Marine City was Pastor Bauer in November of 1857. Every 2 weeks he came to St. Clair to hold services. December of 1857 saw the congregation's first marriage. In March of 1858, Emma Bruswani was the first recorded baptism of the congregation. The first confirmands of St. Peter's were in June of 1858. Then, in 1860, after several years of exhausting circuit ministry of 3 growing parishes, Pastor Bauer resigned his other charges and pastored only the 28 members of St. Peter's. Shortly thereafter, the congregation purchased a log home with half a lot on 7th and J Streets for $200 that served as parsonage and church. By 1867, work had begun on what would become a permanent church structure for the congregation. Much of the building supplies were donated by members. A service of dedication of the First St. Peter's Evangelical Lutheran Church was held on the 18th Sunday after Trinity in November of 1867, led by Pastor Biederman. In 1896, English was incorporated into the evening service by Pastor Becker. Then, in 1897, Lutherans in St. Clair split. St. Peter's had belonged to the Missouri Synod church body up to this point, and after much conversation and debate, the congregation voted to cease affiliation with the Missouri Synod, and a minority of the congregation broke away and founded a second Lutheran church in St. Clair, called Emmanuel Lutheran Church. At the recommendation of Pastor Becker, St. Peter's applied for affiliation with the Joint Synod of Ohio. In the very early years of the 1900s, the church choir was organized, and in 1905 a pipe organ was donated. By 1918, English had been incorporated to all worship services, and in 1920, women were given the right to vote in the congregation. 1927 saw the addition of a red brick veneer added to the church building. A special service for the laying of the Cornerstone was held on September 18, 1927. 3 services of dedication were held on Sunday, November 20th, 1927, to dedicate the remodeled St. Peter's to the glory of God. Pastor Lentz was to become the longest-serving pastor of St. Peter's and served the congregation for 27 years, from 1923 until 1950. Pastor Lentz saw a fair amount of change in his time as pastor, notably the decline and eventual phasing out of German worship services. He also saw the elimination of the evening worship service. In 1943, the wooden altar that is still in use was given as a memorial. By 1959, St. Peter's owned the entire block between 6th and 7th Street, and the 1950s also saw the addition of Summer Vacation Bible School into the life of the congregation. Under the pastorate of Pastor Riles, something unique took place within the life of St. Peter's in 1969, a combined worship service with Emmanuel Lutheran Church. Pastor Riles oversaw the revamping of the confirmation curriculum, eliminating the public examination, allowing women to serve on church council, and the institution of a First Communion program. By 1972, discussions were begun about constructing a new church building. The final worship service in the old church was held on Easter Sunday, April 7th, 1985. Immediately following the last service, a procession of members moved the altar furnishings, paraments, and hymnals to the parish hall, where interim services would be held. The old church structure, having faithfully served the congregation for 118 years, was demolished. A symbolic groundbreaking ceremony was held in the area of the new front door on Sunday, April 21st, 1985. The relaying of the old cornerstone and the laying of the new cornerstone were celebrated on Sunday, October 27th, 1985, and the dedication of the current St. Peter's Evangelical Lutheran Church was held on Palm Sunday, March 23rd, 1986. In 2003, Pastor Rawl was called to serve St. Peter's, and chanting was reinstituted in the service, and several new liturgies were introduced to the parish. In 2014, Pastor Ken was installed after the retirement of Pastor Rawl. There is more to this story, to our story. 165 years of lives, of ministry, and of passionately chasing after God cannot be contained in several minutes of a video. As we reflect on our stories, St. Peter's stories, and God's story, let us prayerfully move forward with hope, trusting in God, welcoming all to know and love Jesus, and being sent by the Spirit.
Hi, my name is Sue Sharon Weber Daniels. I have been a member of St. Peter's Lutheran Church since I was born, which is a long, long time ago. And the things I like to reflect back on over the years are what the children have done in the congregation. And I started working with the youth in the early 80s. We were in the old red brick church, and started out by doing the morning welcome for Sunday school when Sunday school was at 9:15, and we had our own services over there, and then we'd go off to classes. Then I was asked to take on the Christmas program, and which I have also done since the early 80s. And that has been brought me the most joy, is when those little children get up there and sing. We would, once a month, we would prepare a song, and the kids would sing at the service. And that was when Sunday school was at 9:15 and church was at 10:45, so we had time to rehearse, which we don't have now. And they enjoyed it every month. A new song to sing to their moms and dads, and Mother's Day songs, and Christmas songs, and Easter songs to the congregation. Then our Christmas programs, we've always done the Nativity as told by the children, and I think that's the most beautiful thing in church, is when the children tell the story. And we've had a lot of fun, a lot of problems, but they were good problems, especially with the cherubs. You never know what they're going to do or where they're going to go, but they're told where to go, but that doesn't mean that's where they're going to be. Or the shepherds may start a fight with their sticks, and but mainly, by the time the whole picture is presented, they're all quiet and understanding of why they're there to tell the story. And we've even used real hay, and those were the days when we really had a lot of time to prepare. Now, everyone is so busy that it's hard to even get rehearsals in, and we're lucky if we got 2 rehearsals in before the program, but it always comes out well. The parents are happy, the congregation's happy, and that has been the most joy I've had at St. Peter's, is working with the children and the youth. The years I had the youth, we would have a big Halloween party here, and my junior high kids would decorate the basement as a haunted house. And for the little children, we kept it kind of low key, but boy, when the older children came down, those kids really knew how to scare kids. It was cute.
Hi, my name is Vogel. I joined St. Peter's in 1981. A favorite memory of mine would have been working on the finance committee and being on council as we were building the church, which was completed in 1985.
Hi, I'm Noreen Stucker. Norm and I joined St. Peter's in 1958, the same year that we were married. And I started out by singing in the choir, and I've been in quite a few different programs since that, like teaching Sunday school, being on church council, on worship committee, and several other committees. And I enjoy being in this church and raised my children here. And I hope to see the young people coming back soon, because I think the young people kind of make the church, and that's our future too.
What was one of the biggest changes between going from the old church to the new church?
Size. We got quite a bit bigger when we made that move, and eliminated the steps going up to the church, so it was more accessible. And I guess just the beauty of the sanctuary is beautiful.
Do you have a favorite memory?
Well, I think my biggest memory is making the transition from the old church into this one, because we had worship services in the parish ed building for a while till our church was complete. So, things were a little hectic at that time, but we made it through, and I'm hoping that the congregation builds up again and we see a lot of kids coming and more people too, because that's what makes the church.
I like to do the children's events, and I like to do the ending.
One of my favorite memories from St. Peter's is when I was younger in the youth group, and we got to do the clown service, which was an entire service all done in mime and clown paint and clown costumes. The youth group got to spend the night at the church the night before, decorate, fill up balloons, and then the whole service is all silent. And so that was a really fun memory. I've done it a few times at a couple different churches, but it was a really great time. But it was before the days of regularly recording services, so of course there's no video of it. But yeah, that was one of my favorite memories from St. Peter's.
Where do you see God at work at St. Peter's?
I think I see God working through the people. I think the people of St. Peter's are very generous, and they always have been. It's really been one of their assets. So I see God at work through the people financially.
Where do you see God at work at St. Peter's?
God is working all the time to keep the people here that have been coming, even when there hasn't been very many, and have been coming back. I think that's God's work to keep us going.
But I've loved it here. It's been my church forever, and I hope that she continues another 165 more years.
My name is Ken Steib. I'm the current pastor here at St. Peter's and have been here for nearly 8 years. And among my favorite memories here of St. Peter's so far, any of my favorite memories of St. Peter's so far have been those where the generations, different age groups are working together, playing together, serving together. I think about things like our confirmation students and prayer sponsors talking about faith together in class, or that day of confirmation when prayer sponsors also stand with them on that faith milestone, or things like Oktoberfest, which we have enjoyed, or tying blankets together, or the summer we had an ukulele camp with all the age groups getting together and making beautiful music on ukuleles, of all things. These are the memories that are fondest right now for me, when we have the different age groups together doing things. As I reflect on this anniversary and the history of St. Peter's, one thing that really comes to mind is just a sense of stability. With the exception of the earliest days of our congregation, we have worshiped and served right here on this corner of J and 7th Streets for many, many years. 3 buildings, if you will. Which also means there's a sense of resiliency. This congregation has been through ups and downs, challenges and joys. And most recently, through this time of pandemic, we have come hopefully to the other side of that. And in spite of the challenges ahead, this congregation has remained steadfast. And that's where I see God at work these days. God is at work through the ministries that have continued through this challenging time of history, thinking about new ways to do things like the Christmas gifts each year as we help families, thinking of new ways to do things like that. Using technology to bring the worship service to people online who aren't able or ready to be here. And now we're singing again. Worship is about as close to normal as I think we're going to be for a while. But we're singing again. We're enjoying fellowship again. These past few weeks, people have lingered longer, and there's an energy in our lobby. And so I'm grateful for those things, seeing God at work. And now as we celebrate the history and the past of St. Peter's, I hope we'll also consider, what does the future hold? What is God calling us to do next? Because I believe God still has work for us to do.